The decision to go to USA was really something that one always dreams about because it's a very large market. It's one of the largest markets for selling in the education world, and that's when I decided to put my marker in the sand in US. We were developing the export market. It wasn't huge, but we were developing it, right? It was still in the development stages. And I paid for my own way to go overseas to try to develop it because they wouldn't give you the money to, they didn't understand. I mean, in a newspaper company, they didn't understand you had to travel to some country to do a deal. They didn't understand because no one's done the deal, right? The deal. Didn't believe me anyway. So I paid my own way and took my holidays and things and went just to see whether there was a market I was interested in. And then I was promoted to run 8 companies within the group, to run the flagship, which was the New Zealand Women's Weekly. And that was the flagship, the flagship in some ways, one of the glory products of the group, right, of the corporation. And so I had some time here to do this, time to do that, time to do that. And I still had time for the export market and developing that strategy. But I hadn't developed it enough to take it to the next stage. And then they fired me. Then they escorted me off the place. I mean, the famous thing is that, as the newspapers reported, leading publisher escorted off the place. It was sort of like people thought, what? Is this woman, did she steal something? What did she do? Because it's unheard of, I mean, I was one of the shining stars of the group. I wasn't doing anything wrong. Admittedly, I think in reflection, probably, they found it quite hard what I had to do to the weekly, but of course they had neglected. Evening newspapers were failing worldwide. The Women's Weekly was a cash cow at the time, but it was printed on newsprint and had to change into covered stock because there was More magazine, there was Metro magazine, there were other magazines coming into the market. The world was changing. We were moving from Friday night shopping only to Saturday morning. We were moving as a country. A revolution was taking place in the country. So you had to change, and it's quite difficult. This is like having a warship, and it's going in one direction. It's very hard to change it direction. Very difficult. To change it completely. You can change it a little. You can change a little to avoid that over there, but you can't change it right over here. Because to change it right over here, it's almost like a revolution, in other words. And that's what you had to do. You had to actually change it right over here. And that was the hard thing. It was difficult, and I had to make those hard decisions. I called on Australia then at the time because they were doing some right things. Australian Women's Weekly was really successful. It was on coated stock. John Southam was doing some great things, and I called on John to come and help me. And him and I just worked up to Christmas Eve and everything else to restructure the weekly. And we went to supermarkets, for example, to have the magazine on a checkout counter. Supermarkets hadn't done that before, Younger women demanded a glossy stock. Younger women looked at makeup to not be on newsprint. The world was changing like it is now, like it is with AI, like it is now, right? And so you had to be flexible. Very difficult changing that ship